Hi, and welcome to the Happiness Coach podcast. My name is Lori Brandt, and I am the Happiness Coach. I believe our natural state is peace and calm, and the only thing keeping us from living life from that centered space are our limiting beliefs. It's my understanding that thoughts like, I'm not worthy, I'm not safe, or I'm not enough can be eliminated. Once revealed and questioned, they begin to lose their hold so that our natural state of greatness can rise up and into our present day experience. On this podcast, you'll listen in on real life coaching calls, interviews with leading experts, and open discussions exploring limiting beliefs and their transformation. If after listening you found it interesting or helpful, please follow and share. If it inspired you to consider becoming a life coach yourself, visit my website for upcoming ICF-approved life coach certification training dates at www.loribrandt.com. All right, let's jump in and get started. Hello, everybody. Oftentimes people come to coaching because something is not working and they'd like to figure out how to make the necessary changes to get more of what they desire in life to be happy. The risk for new coaches is that they focus in on what is wrong and what needs to be fixed instead of getting clear about what a client wants. A new coach can easily be fooled into thinking that if they just worked on time management or getting the client to focus more, eliminate distractions, use positive affirmations, goal set, or set positive intentions, the problem will be solved. But what if there's no problem? What if the client is just getting results? By getting clear on what a client wants, where they are now, and by listening deeply, I can hear the client's inner wisdom rising up and out of the conversation. I can hear what's not being said, what is being repeated, and uncover the motivation behind the behaviors that are creating the unsatisfying results. By uncovering that, my client and I can change the original cause of the unsatisfying results and create strong, powerful, positive behaviors that align with the client's goals. The client I'm working with today describes how at first she was so busy and her calendar was so full that she never seemed to find time to get to the projects that she really wanted to work on. Whenever anyone asked her to do something, she said yes, immediately, without consideration of her already full calendar. She never contemplated if it was something she really wanted to do or if it would take her away from completing personal projects. The busyness created a distraction. Now, I worked with her on her time management and to develop new strategies that supported her efforts to complete her business tasks and allot time for her personal projects. It worked, but she did find herself sitting down to work on her personal projects only to find new distractions. She went from keeping herself over the top busy as a distraction to using social media, household chores. I'll just clean that, or I'll just do this, or whatever else her mind, focused in on to distract her from the personal project scheduled during that time. Now, this shift from one form of distraction to another tells me that a strategy is activated, a strategy that the client is using to avoid feeling a certain way. Now, listen in to see if you can figure out what emotion she's avoiding.
The reason why I'm here today is because I'm having a hard time doing this stuff I'm scheduled in to do. So I've made the space. It's all open. It's on my calendar. I go to sit down and do it, and I get distracted by anything, including things I don't even really want to do, like cooking or cleaning. So I have these really important things that I really want to do, but then I just can't do them. And then I'm looking outside to say, okay, I want to maybe form a group and maybe we can do it together and maybe that'll keep me accountable. Or maybe if I just call up a friend and have them hold me accountable to getting these things done, then that would help. But I'm having a hard time just holding myself accountable for it. Why can't I just do it on my own?
You seem really clear on what it is that you're wanting today. And just to recap maybe a little bit for some listeners who might not understand how far you've come, because it sounds really simple, right? To block out some free time, right?
Yeah.
But so why was that such a huge step for you?
Well, a couple different reasons. One was because I didn't feel like I was getting any free time in the day. And I found out through our work together that there was no wonder why I couldn't find free time, because I was taking on so many things and so many people, or I was taking on so many things people would ask me to do, and I just automatically say yes. And then wonder why I couldn't get the things that I wanted to do done, or why I didn't feel like I had free time. So that was one of the reasons. One of the kind of situations. The other one was that I felt like if it was in my calendar, it was work. And I was struggling with, okay, if it's free time, that's for me, that's my personal time. But because it's in my calendar, it felt like work. And I wanted not that to feel like that. But even my work, I love. So it was just like a mindset or a belief I had that if it was in my calendar, it was work, and I couldn't schedule my free time in my calendar.
Okay, so how are we now with that? With scheduling free time in the same calendar as, say, work items?
It's working out fine. I'm keeping my space clear for the free time and scheduling it for the times that I've accepted it from other people. Like if someone's asking me to do something, then I'll sit and say, check my calendar. So if someone's asking me to do something, I'll say, let me check my calendar. And then I check it and I decide and feel whether that's something that makes me feel big or something that makes me feel small. That's kind of how I decide. And then I say yes, and I put it in my calendar, and then that's it. But then I'll separate out the free time. So in my week, I'll look at it and go, okay, where am I putting my free time? And then that's what I'll do. And I think before too, I was like, okay, well, 9 to 5 is when I work, and free time is after that. And then I realized or recognized that free time could be any time. And it doesn't have to be, my old life or my old conditioning or whatever, I was working 9 to 5 and that was my work time. But now I can have like a break during the day and then work maybe a little later, but I don't have to have free time between the hours of 5 and 9 every night. So there was a lot of things I learned through that.
And that works now. So you like
totally
the idea
works.
of having free time integrated with the work time, and perfect.
And I'm just starting to. So before we were doing it in a paper format. So with the paper, I had to go back home and check my calendar. Really, like, I'm sorry, I really have to check my calendar. So now I'm just starting to bring it over into my online calendar to try to do that, but still give myself the space to say, I need to check my calendar.
Right. So what you're saying is actually having to go home and check the paper calendar almost forced you to have that space before you said the yes.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. Wow. I needed that space because otherwise I just say yes.
Yeah.
And I still have caught myself doing that. Now that I've switched over, I'm like, oh, let me just look. And then I'm like, wait, I'm not checking to see if this resonates or not. So I'll have to get back to you. Let me,
Wow, that's awesome.
That looks like.
So what I'm hearing is that basically the things that you had been working on previously are still being used, and you're modifying them a bit, like using your phone calendar, but that transition seems to be working. Mm-hmm. And you are following through on the items in the free time as well as the work items. However, you did mention something today that you wanted to work on being accountable. So how does that fit with what you've been just telling me?
So when I set aside the time for me, so that doesn't mean when I have a meeting with someone or I'm doing a different class or any of those types of things. It's when I set the time aside for myself to work on something that's important to me. I will sit and be ready, and then I'll start looking through emails, or I'll start doing Facebook, and no, in my back of my mind is saying, hey, you're supposed to be doing this. Come on, come back. And it's just not. Oh, let me just get this one more thing done. Oh, and then my time's up, and then I'm off to doing something else. And then once again, the day is gone, and I haven't done what I really wanted to do.
When you're working for yourself rather than with other people.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had, say, let's say in your calendar that you had to do something for someone else, this doesn't happen.
Right.
Okay. And if we were just to explore what it is that you're wanting in a little bit more detail then. So we've got this calendar. It's being marked out with activities required for self-care or personal time.
Mm-hmm.
It has marked out work for other people, and it also has items for yourself. Is that correct? Okay. So that being said, you've got a full calendar. What kind of experience are you hoping to work with me on today with respect to that?
Just holding myself accountable to the things that I schedule for the work stuff I'm doing for myself and sticking to it.
Okay, so tell me what being accountable to that work looks like for you.
Sitting down at the time I have carved out and starting it or doing it.
And if you're starting it, sitting down, doing it, is there some kind of expectation that you have within yourself about that process? Like, what's going on within you when you're doing it?
Like, I'm working on it. I'm sitting and I'm focusing on just that.
And so I'm just curious, when you have this expectation of being accountable to yourself, so is there a set standard that you have when you sit down of what needs to be accomplished by the end of that time? Like, is it?
No, and as you're talking, I'm like, oh, maybe that's what I need to do. Like, set out some clear expectations in that time. Because the task is so huge that I think I don't know where to start. So then that is overwhelming.
Did you hear what emotion the client's trying to resist feeling? Chances are, sometime in the client's life, she felt a deep sense of being overwhelmed, and it scared her. It scared her so much that she created a distraction strategy so that she would never have to feel that way again. Most often, people aren't aware that they have created these strategies, and these strategies are continuously being played out in different aspects of their lives. What's so fascinating to me is that these strategies are often created in our childhood to deal with negative emotions. As a child, if I had an experience where I responded in a certain way and that reaction gave me relief from the negative feelings, my brain makes the connection that, hey, that worked. Let's remember that and do it again next time we feel bad. So, for example, if I get criticized as a child for not being responsible, let's say, I might avoid taking responsibility for things so that I don't feel bad. If I'm not responsible for anything, then there's no risk of trying to be responsible and getting criticized for it, right? So keep in mind that the response may have provided relief for the 5-year-old or 6-year-old, but that strategy may now be outdated and no longer providing relief. Imagine if I avoided taking responsibility as an adult. So as soon as she decreased her busyness by scheduling time for personal projects, other distractions started popping up during personal project work time. She was recreating the busyness. Then the constant looping of thoughts about how she was not being productive and I need to be accountable during the personal work periods was making her feel overwhelmed. It was really a no-win situation. It's likely that this client had an experience in her past where she began to believe some or all of the following limiting beliefs. Never ends. It's better not to start. It doesn't matter what I do. It's too much. The task is too big. I don't know where to start. I can't do it all. I can't do it. And you know what? Maybe more. Moving forward, I needed to explore the possible connection between the limiting beliefs and the distractions. So I asked her, what would you be afraid of if there were no more distractions and you completed your book? She replied, it would be great. My book would be finished. I'd be super popular. But then her expression changed. I'd be in the limelight. But I don't want all that attention because people will judge me. Now, that's a really powerful statement for a life coach. Let me repeat that. It would be great. My book would be finished. I'd be super popular. I'd be in the limelight. I don't want the attention because people will judge me. In this really simple statement, the client indicated it would be great and not great to complete the book. So, on one hand, she would complete her goal, and that would be really satisfying. However, by completing her goal, she'd be thrown into the limelight and be judged. Now, those are limiting beliefs. To be in the limelight is bad. If I am successful, people will judge me. So I asked her, can you recall the earliest instance where you were in the limelight and people judged you? Now, I knew a memory landed because her jaw dropped and she looked at me. Yeah, I was in grade 5 and my teacher asked me to go to the front of the room and do a subtraction question on the board. I did it the way I thought was right, and suddenly he just started yelling at me, telling me I did it wrong. What was I thinking? How stupid of me. Oh, and then I asked, so how did that make you feel? And she replied, well, I felt stupid, embarrassed, humiliated. I followed the rules. I did what he asked. I didn't know any better. I couldn't trust myself to know what to do or what to do next. And I asked her, did anyone judge you? And she said, yes, the kids and the teacher. So what happened is basically she was in the limelight doing what she thought she should do to the best of her ability and got punished for it. And then she got judged and it made her feel stupid. Well, her shoulders dropped and her head lowered. And this gentle, teary release rose up and out of her. This old emotion, maybe 30 years old, was finally being released. And I could see this lightness washing over her. Although this happened a really long time ago, the intensity of the experience and the emotions attached to it had been carried in this client's unconscious. That's how limiting beliefs work. So her younger self perceived the classroom experience through the eyes and the mindset of a grade 5 student. And this perception became a truth for her. Without questioning the belief as an adult, the belief just continues to be considered a truth, and her adult self behaves in alignment with that truth. To be successful is bad. To be in the limelight is bad. So I asked her, do you recall if you behaved differently right after that incident to avoid being in the limelight? And she said, I distracted myself. Aha moment. And as she made this inner connection, a second emotional release, deeper than the first, just eased out. And I could feel her relief. And she said, I would pretend that I was writing or reading, whatever I could do to avoid eye contact so I wouldn't get chosen, so I wouldn't be in the limelight. This behavior is what I call a strategy that is used to keep oneself from feeling the negative emotion attached to a limiting belief. By identifying the strategy, we can now work to transform the limiting beliefs, the emotions attached to them, and then the behaviors that are keeping them in place. Through coaching, we can now create a behavioral action plan, a new strategy to support the client to move through the distractions, complete projects, and enjoy her successes. To learn more, go to my website, www.loribrant.com, and that's spelled Loribrant. And you can learn more about upcoming conferences, resources like my book called The Happiness Toolbox, Finding Happiness Regardless of Circumstances. Have an amazing day. You've been listening to Lori Brandt, the Happiness Coach. If you enjoyed the program, please go to iTunes and follow, rate, or leave a comment. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, life coach certification, go to my website, loribrandt.com, or perhaps even attending our Unleash Your Greatness conference so greatness can reflect back in beautiful Ridgeway, Ontario at the Buffalo Canoe Club on the shores of Lake Erie. You can learn more at www.unleashmygreatness.com.